Let's talk about bad habits that backpackers develop and mistakes that are made by developing these bad habits when we go out on a backpacking trip. The first bad habit that I want to talk about is not making effective trip plans before you go out on your backpacking trip. It's so critical and so important to make sure that you take the time ahead of time to plan your trip out, know how many miles you plan to do, what the elevation gain and loss is going to be like, what the temperatures and the weather are going to be like, and not just winging it. If you wing it, that's how people end up getting in trouble. And so make effective trip plans ahead of time, share those with loved ones so that they know where you're at, and don't wing your backpacking trips. By not making an effective trip plan, the second thing that can happen is you can overpack and not be totally prepared the way that you should be with the gear that you need to have, or you end up taking way more gear than you need for the trip that you're going on. By making an effective trip plan, you are not going to overpack, because part of that trip planning process is to plan out your gear. So the second habit is overpacking because you did not plan ahead properly.
Nice.
Will's just over here catching more fish, but I want to talk about the third mistake and bad habit that backpackers make. This is something that has been talked about many times in a lot of videos, but it's something that still happens, and that is using brand new gear out on a trip before you ever check it out at home first. I'm guilty of this, and I know a lot of other people are guilty of making this mistake. You've got to make sure that you test and check out and open new gear items at home before you take them out on a trip, because as good as quality control might be with a company, there can be issues with products out of the box that are either going to create a really bad safety situation, or there's just something wrong with the product. So you got to make sure that you do this ahead of time. Now I want to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which supports this idea of testing and checking out things at home before you head out on a trip. And the sponsor is Outdoor Vitals. I want to talk about their Live Ultralight membership specifically, and the benefits that come from being a Live Ultralight member. Essentially, $10 a month is taken from your credit card, put into your account as store credit. But there are greater benefits to being a Live Ultralight member by getting additional discounts, free shipping on things, but you can also join a really cool community of like-minded backpackers and hikers in the Live Ultralight Facebook group. This is an amazing community of people that are using Outdoor Vitals products and just supportive of all sorts of different types of outdoor activities around hiking and backpacking. And the thing that I really like about this Facebook group, as I'm part of it myself, is when I see somebody has bought a new piece of gear, maybe it's a 40th tent that was recently released by Outdoor Vitals, that tent might be a little bit more finicky and requires some more attention to detail to get the best pitch out of it. And I've seen other members within the group post videos and photos of them setting up this brand new tent and asking for advice on things to make the pitch better, which helping others figure that stuff out really makes a big difference in your experience when you head out onto the trail into the backcountry, because now you feel more confident in taking the product, making sure that it is all good to go. So definitely recommend checking out the Outdoor Vitals Live Ultralight membership. Again, discounts on gear, new gear, free shipping, and it's just a great benefit to your gear addiction that you might have. And Outdoor Vitals is just making great gear, so definitely recommend checking them out, and thank you to them for sponsoring today's video. All right, morning has arrived, and I want to talk about the fourth and the next bad habit the backpackers make, and that is simply buying and using gear based on weight only. The reason this is bad is you need to focus more on function of the product that you are looking to use. What does it provide for you for the area that you're going? Is it the right application for what you're doing. And I was making the joke yesterday to my friend Will that I've got a 1 pound tent in my backpack, but I've got a 2 pound sleeping pad. This guy right here, the Nemo Quasar 3D. And I just think it's funny that we get so caught up in things being the lightest possible, and that is the reason that we purchase things. For example, I have a NeoWear X-Lite sleeping pad, and in comparison to this, it's significantly lighter, like more than a pound lighter than this Nemo Quasar, but I get way better sleep on this Quasar than I do pretty much out of any other pad. So taking something like this, it's way more functional and better for me. And then pairing it with this Zen Bivy quilt, love this sleep system. And so going based off of weight only is how people end up getting in trouble, maybe not have quite as a comfortable sleep experience, or just other aspects about, I'm only buying this based off of the weight to save as much weight as possible. That's where issues can happen. And so don't buy gear solely based on weight, buy it on function first. The squirrels have been, they've been at it this morning. The next bad habit that I want to talk about is people simply neglecting to follow Leave No Trace. As I've been walking around this campsite that we are in, it's a dispersed site in kind of an off-trail location, but it's still pretty popular. So in this site alone, there's probably been a few dozen people that have camped here this season, and we took some time to clean up the fire pit yesterday to make it more usable the way that a fire pit should be. And this is a site that leaving the fire pit is not that big of a deal, but there's like little wrapper pieces and trash all over the place. So people clearly not taking care of the area and not really paying attention to the impact that they are making on a little campsite like this. So it's important to always make sure that you pack your trash out, you dig your cat holes the proper depth, you clean up after yourself, and realize the impact that you have on an area, and it'll make it so that things stay open. Forest Service won't close things, or your impact just makes it so that other people's experience can be that much more enjoyable. So don't forget to leave no trace when you're out on a backpacking trip. The last bad habit and mistake that we'll talk about is underestimating miles and elevation and overall terrain for a backpacking trip. Something that you can fall into a trap on after you have many, many years of experience in backpacking is, well, I do this all the time, so nothing's going to be hard, nothing's going to be difficult for me. And there's a lot of situations where you're maybe not used to that particular type of terrain, or you're not used to hiking at elevation, or it's just a totally different location that results in a different experience than what you are typically used to for the type of backpacking that you would normally do. In underestimating your miles, the amount of elevation gain and loss can really put a damper on your experience and just make it not as fun of a trip. So really making sure that you do effective trip planning and you have everything figured out. You've spent time to figure out, okay, I'm going to have about this much elevation gain and loss on this day of hiking. I'm at this elevation or altitude, and this is what I expect to experience while I'm out on the trail. That can lend itself to having a way better experience in the backcountry. And if you're new to backpacking, this is something that's even more critical to figure out, because it can help you understand what you're getting yourself into that much more. So I'm curious what other bad habits or mistakes that you have made or you see others make. Leave them down in the comments section below. Appreciate you guys watching today. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Thank you to Outdoor Vitals for sponsoring today's video. We'll catch you on the next one. See you later.